What happens when a CEO who's built his company from the ground up finds out new cooks are being blamed for missing food and decides to put on an apron and work the grill himself? Tanner, Reed leaned back in his office chair, flipping through last month's internal reports. 8 locations, 7 doing fine. But the 8th, the numbers weren't adding up. The food costs were way off, too high for the sales they were pulling. Tanner had heard whispers, a few complaints from team members at the East Point store. Nothing official, just vague mentions of unfair treatment and blame games. The district manager, Lewis, brushed it off as rookie mistakes from new hires. But Tanner didn't like trusting middlemen when his gut told him something was off. He bought the chain 6 years ago from a retired couple who ran it like a mom and pop. Tanner had grown, it kept the heart of it, but modernized the systems. He made sure to visit the stores in the earlier years, but things got busier. He hadn't stepped foot in East Point since the remodel 3 years ago. Most of the staff had turned over since then, and they wouldn't know his face. "I'm going in," he muttered. He worked with HR to create a new identity. Tommy, a mid-30s guy starting a new job after moving back home to help his sick dad. They gave him a fake resume, full of just enough kitchen experience to be believable, but not enough to raise eyebrows. He put on a brown beard, got a shorter haircut, wore thick-rimmed glasses, and ditched his usual pressed slacks for jeans and non-slip sneakers. When he showed up for his first shift, no one batted an eye. "Name?" the young woman at the counter asked, chewing gum behind the register. "Tommy," he said. "I'm the new grill trainee," she pointed to the back. "Go find Darren, he runs all the back-of-house stuff." Back-of-house was hot, loud, and rushed. Tanner no, Tommy felt the sweat start under his collar before he even clocked in. The kitchen was slammed. 2 fryers, 1 flat grill, 1 guy calling orders, and 3 others trying to keep up. Darren, the manager, was easy to spot, tall, mid-40s, bald, with a sharp goatee and a louder-than-necessary voice. "You're late," Darren barked. Tommy checked the clock. "I'm 5 minutes early." Darren didn't respond, just tossed him an apron. "If you screw up, I'll know, and don't touch the steak patties until I say so." The next few hours were chaos. Tommy learned fast, but not fast enough for Darren's standards. "God, what did they even teach you at your last job?" Darren snapped after Tommy dropped a burger on the floor. A younger cook named Lewis leaned over. "Don't worry, man. First day's always rough. Darren's just like that." Tommy nodded, grateful. Lewis looked about 22, sleeves rolled up, moving fast but careful. He handled the grill like second nature. Later, during a quick break, Tommy sat beside Lewis outside near the dumpster. "How long you been here?" Tommy asked. 2 months, still on probation technically, but I like it. "I just want to work and keep my head down." "You always on grill?" "Mostly. But sometimes they pull me to prep, or clean the freezer. Depends on how short we are." Tanner noticed something then. Lewis's shoes were old, soles worn thin, but the kid worked like he had something to prove. Back inside, Darren was yelling again. "Who the hell pulled 2 extra briskets yesterday?" he shouted, holding a clipboard. "That's why our inventory's off. I'm not getting chewed out because 2 of you can't count," no one answered. Darren pointed at Lewis and another new girl, Rachel. "You 2 were closing, right? Then it's on you." Rachel's face flushed. "We followed the sheet, I swear we did." "Don't argue, just fix it. If this keeps up, you're done." Tommy watched quietly. The others didn't defend them, they just kept working. Tanner had a pit in his stomach. He'd seen enough bad managers in his life to recognize one, but Darren wasn't just tough. He was lazy, blaming down instead of looking sideways. At the end of the shift, Darren pulled Tommy aside. "You did better than I expected, just don't get caught up with the other rookies. They're the reason we're always behind." Tommy gave a tight nod, but as he walked out of the kitchen, he saw Lewis still scrubbing the grill, even though his shift ended 15 minutes ago. "Why are you still here?" Tommy asked. Lewis looked up, tired. "Darren said the grill wasn't clean enough." "I want to keep the job, man." Tanner walked to his car in silence. His chest tightened. This wasn't just about missing brisket, it was about letting the wrong people run the show, and tomorrow he was going to dig deeper. Tanner arrived 20 minutes early the next morning. A quiet gray light hung over the parking lot as he sat in his car, watching the building. The store wouldn't open for another hour, but the prep crew was already inside. He wanted to see how things ran before the rush without the noise and chaos to hide behind. He headed in through the back door, apron slung over his shoulder. The kitchen lights buzzed overhead, casting a harsh white glare over the stainless steel counters. The air smelled of bleach and onions. Rachel was already chopping produce, earbuds in, moving quickly. She looked up when Tanner stepped in and gave a small nod before returning to her work. "Morning," he said, stepping beside her at the prep table. She pulled out one earbud. "Hey, you're early. Wanted to get ahead of the curve," he said. "You always start this early," she shrugged. "Darren told me to get here 30 minutes before my shift to show initiative. I clock in when the schedule says, though." Tanner raised an eyebrow. "So he asks you to work off the clock," she pressed her lips together. "He says it's not work, just prep for the day." He didn't reply. Just took a cutting board and started dicing tomatoes. A few minutes later, Lewis walked in, still rubbing sleep from his eyes. "You all right?" Tanner asked. Lewis nodded. "Didn't sleep much. My little brother was sick all night." "I almost called out, but I need the hours." Rachel offered him a weak smile. "You're the only one who can keep the meat station from falling apart." Lewis gave a tired laugh. "They should pay me extra just for keeping the line from burning down." Tanner watched the two of them work efficient, focused, quietly supportive of each other. It was clear they cared about doing the job right, but it was also clear they were being stretched too thin. At exactly 6:55, Darren walked in holding a large coffee and a breakfast sandwich. He didn't greet anyone, just tossed his keys on the manager's desk and sat down at the office computer. Tanner kept his head down, but he saw it all. Darren didn't check the prep, didn't ask about the coming delivery, didn't glance at the cleaning log. He just opened the inventory screen and started clicking through figures. "Lewis," Darren called, not looking up. "Did you adjust the brisket pull from Tuesday night?" Lewis paused mid-slice. "No, I followed the sheet exactly. I didn't change anything." "Then why's it showing 2 extra pulls on the report?" "I don't know. Maybe the system glitched." Darren leaned back in the chair. "You expect me to believe the system glitched?" "You and Rachel were closing again, right?" Rachel stopped chopping. "We didn't touch the brisket, I swear." Darren stood up, walked over to the prep table and pointed a finger at both of them. "You two better figure this out. If I get another call from Lewis about our numbers, you're both getting written up." Tanner looked at the prep list. "What if it wasn't them?" Darren turned to him. "You got something to say, new guy?" Just wondering if the issue might be in the system or maybe someone entered it wrong during the day. Darren stepped closer. "You don't get to ask questions. You're here to follow orders," Rachel muttered under her breath. Darren turned, hearing it. "What was that?" "Nothing," she said, eyes locked on the cutting board. Tanner's jaw clenched. He wanted to say more, but he'd only been Tommy for a day and a half. He needed to see more, understand the full picture before making a move. The morning rush kicked in fast. Orders piled up and the line moved like a machine powered by tension. Lewis handled the grill without missing a beat. Rachel floated between stations, filling in wherever hands were needed. Tanner took the fryer, sweating through his shirt. Darren stood near the soda station, scrolling through his phone. At one point, the drive-through printer jammed. No one noticed until a customer at the window asked where their food was. By then, the ticket was buried under a stack of papers. Darren walked over, tossed the paper in the trash, and barked at Rachel. "You need to be watching that closer." "I was running the register and prepping drinks." "Don't make excuses. You want to stay past your probation, you better learn to multitask." Tanner bit his tongue. He'd seen enough to know this wasn't an isolated incident. This was a pattern. Blame flowed down. Responsibility never moved up. And Darren? He barely lifted a finger. The lunch rush died down around 2. Tanner found Lewis sitting on an overturned bucket near the walk-in cooler, chewing on a granola bar. Did you eat anything? Lewis shrugged. This is it. I'll grab something when I get home. You didn't get a break, Lewis looked at the floor. We're supposed to. But if it's slammed, Darren says to just take a bite when you can. Tanner nodded slowly. That happened a lot, Lewis gave a tired laugh. Most days. Tanner leaned against the wall. You ever think about leaving? Lewis looked up, caught off guard. I mean, yeah, but I need the paycheck. And I'm hoping to move up eventually, maybe become a shift lead. I've been asking for more responsibility. Tanner stared at him. Has Darren ever trained you for that? Lewis shook his head. He says I'm not ready, but I do everything already. Tanner felt something tighten in his chest. You ever met Lewis, the district manager? Once. He came in for like 10 minutes a few weeks ago. Darren showed him some report and they went to lunch. Tanner kept his voice even. Did Lewis talk to any of the team? Nope, just Darren. Tanner walked back to the front, thoughts racing. He needed to get Darren away from the floor, see how this place ran without him. He waited until the next shift lead, a woman named Jada, came in. She was older, maybe mid-50s, calm but sharp. As she tied her apron, Darren handed her the keys. Don't screw up the report tonight, he said. I'm heading out. She narrowed her eyes. You're leaving early again. I've got a conference call with Lewis. Jada didn't argue, just took the keys and went straight to the back. The moment Darren walked out, the air shifted. The volume of the kitchen stayed the same, but the tension dropped. Jada moved through the stations, checking in with each employee. She asked Rachel if she'd eaten. She told Lewis to take 5 minutes. She thanked Tanner for covering the fryer. It was night and day. Tanner used the lull to check the inventory logs. He asked Jada how the system worked, how the pull sheets were tracked, and who had access to edits. She showed him that only shift leads and managers could make changes. The system kept a log of who entered what, and there it was. Tuesday's brisket pull had 2 entries. One by Rachel at 10:30 p.m., matching the schedule. The other, entered by Darren at 6 a.m. the next day before Rachel and Lewis even arrived. Tanner felt the heat rise in his neck. He took a breath, stepped outside, and called HR. Pull the access logs on East Point's inventory system, he said. I need a full report by morning. He hung up and walked back inside. Jada gave him a curious look. Everything all right? She asked. Yeah, he said. Just needed a breather. That night, Tanner stayed late, helping close. He watched how Jada handled the team. She coached without yelling. She corrected mistakes without insulting people. She reviewed the register totals herself instead of pushing the task onto Rachel. As they locked up, she turned to him. You're pretty sharp for a new guy, he smiled faintly. Just trying to learn. Keep at it, she said. We need more folks who care. Tanner drove home in silence. The pieces were falling into place. Darren was inflating numbers, shifting blame downward, and holding back employees who clearly deserved more. And come morning, Tanner Reed wasn't going to be Tommy anymore. Tanner stood in the back office of the East Point location at exactly 7:05 a.m. This time without the apron, without the glasses, and without the beard. He wore a plain black polo jeans and a company badge clipped to his belt, one that read Tanner Reed, CEO. He didn't speak right away. He just stood with his arms crossed as Darren walked in, holding his usual coffee. Darren stopped mid-step. What the Tanner's voice was calm. Close the door, Darren did slowly, brow furrowed. I'm not here to talk, Tanner said. I'm here to show you something. He turned the office monitor toward him and opened the inventory logs. A printed list from corporate sat beside it, already highlighted and marked. Tanner scrolled to the Tuesday entries. You made an adjustment to the brisket numbers at 6:03 a.m., he said. That was after Rachel and Lewis had already closed the night before. You logged another one the following morning. There's no delivery to support it. No usage. Just your manual entry, Darren shifted. That's probably just correcting what they Tanner cut in. Don't finish that sentence. I watched them work. I reviewed the footage. They followed the prep sheet to the gram. You added that pull to cover a shortfall in yesterday's count. There's a lot of reasons those numbers might. You've done it 4 times in the last 6 weeks. Always right after a closing shift you weren't on. Always blaming new team members who don't know how to defend themselves yet. That ends now, Darren's voice stiffened. Look, I've been managing this store for over 2 years. I don't need some corporate audit nitpicking. You're not being audited. You're being removed. Darren's mouth opened slightly. You're done here, Tanner said, effective immediately. HR's processing your termination. Your access is already revoked. You'll be escorted off the premises in 5 minutes. You've been falsifying records and targeting entry-level employees to cover your own mismanagement. It's unacceptable. You're making a mistake. No, Tanner said. You did. Repeatedly, and now you're facing the consequences. The silence that followed was cold. Darren's eyes darted around the room like he was trying to find something to grab onto. But there was nothing, just the weight of the truth. 2 corporate reps entered quietly and stood by the door. They didn't speak. Tanner didn't either. Darren finally turned, grabbed his tablet and left the office without another word. Tanner let out a slow breath, then turned back to the monitor. He printed out one more copy of the inventory report, folded it into his back pocket, and stepped out onto the floor. Jada was stocking sauces near the line when she noticed him. Her eyes narrowed slightly, confused. "You're not Tommy, are you?" she asked. "No," Tanner said. "Name's Tanner Reed." "I own this company," she straightened slowly. "I'm guessing this isn't a surprise visit." "Not anymore," he said. "Is Lewis here yet?" "Just clocked in. He's in the walk-in." Tanner found him sorting boxes in the cooler, wearing a heavier hoodie against the chill. He looked up quickly, startled. "Hey, yeah," Tanner said, offering a small nod. "I'm the guy who's been working beside you for 2 days." Lewis looked unsure. "Did I mess up something?" "No," Tanner said. "You've been carrying more than your share. I came down here to figure out what was going wrong at this location." "You helped me do that," Lewis blinked. "So, what happens now?" "Darren's gone," Tanner said. "He manipulated numbers, blamed you and Rachel to cover his tracks. That stops today." Lewis didn't speak right away. He leaned back slightly against a shelf like the news hadn't fully landed. "I thought maybe I was just bad at this," he said quietly. "You're not," Tanner said. "In fact, you've been doing the job of 2 people. Lewis looked down. "We're going to be opening up a team lead position," Tanner continued. "It'll come with more pay, more hours, and actual training. You'll report to Jada for now. She'll help you get there if you want it." Lewis nodded slowly, still processing. "Take 15, Tanner said. "Outside, no clock. You've earned it." Tanner stepped out into the main floor and spotted Rachel wiping down the dining area. When she saw him, she froze mid-wipe. "I need to talk to you," he said. She approached slowly, wary. "You're not in trouble," he said. "You're the reason I came here," she blinked. "What?" "I got multiple reports about issues at this store. Your name came up, but not in a bad way. You asked questions, you pushed back. That told me you were paying attention." "I just didn't want to get fired," she said. "You won't be," Tanner said. "Darren's gone. You and Lewis were being set up to take blame for his mistakes." She stared at him. "He always made it seem like we were the problem." "He made a lot of things seem like they weren't his fault," Tanner said. "That ends here. I'm putting Jada in charge until we find a permanent GM, and you're going to get a mentor out of it." Rachel looked suspicious. "Why me?" "Because you care," Tanner said. "And because you didn't fall in line when something felt wrong." Her eyes flicked to the kitchen. "So what now?" "Now we rebuild," he said. "With people who deserve to be here." He spent the next hour with Jada, walking through the systems, reviewing the training schedules, and mapping out immediate needs. Tanner didn't sugarcoat anything. The store was undersupported, staffing was uneven, training had gaps. He laid it all out on the table. Jada was direct. "We've been asking for help for months. Lewis keeps saying it's a budget issue." "That's changing today," Tanner said. "I've already flagged this location for priority hiring support. We'll cover the hours. I'm not going to let another store rot from the inside because someone higher up wants to save a few dollars." She nodded. "I'll keep the team steady, but we need structure, not just bodies." "You'll get it," Tanner said. "And I want you to sit in on the interviews for the new GM. You know this crew better than anyone." She gave him a steady look. You planning to do this at your other stores too? I might. Good, she said. Because this wasn't the only one with cracks. By the time the lunch rush started, the kitchen felt different, not quieter, just clearer. Rachel worked the line without flinching when tickets came in fast. Lewis returned from break and stepped onto the grill like it was his own. Tanner stayed out of the way, watching, taking notes. He caught one of the new hires, Marcus, moving quickly between orders, slightly out of rhythm but focused. Tanner pulled him aside after a short lull. How long you been here? 3 weeks, Marcus said. Still figuring it out. You ever get trained on the register? No, they said I wasn't ready. Want to be? Yeah, I just need someone to show me. You'll get that, Tanner said. Later that afternoon, after the rush died down, Tanner gathered the team together near the back prep station. He stood without ceremony, hands in his pockets. Most of you didn't know who I was 2 days ago. That's on me. I should have stayed closer to the ground. I built this company starting on the grill. I know how hard it is to keep things moving when the person above you is only looking out for themselves. He looked around the room, Lewis still wearing his hoodie, Rachel with her arms crossed, Jada leaning against the wall, Marcus trying not to be noticed. You've been working under pressure that never should have existed. That changes now. Not just here, but across the board. You'll get the training, the hours, and the leadership you deserve. And if something doesn't feel right, I expect you to speak up, not just to your managers. To me, no one applauded. There was no dramatic music, no big crescendo, just a moment of quiet understanding, and that was enough. Tanner stayed until close, side by side with the crew as they wiped down counters, counted drawers, and stacked chairs. He didn't need to be there. But he wanted to be. Because sometimes the only way to lead is from the line. 3 weeks after Darren's dismissal, the East Point location still wasn't running perfectly, but for the first time in a long while, it was moving in the right direction. Tanner returned quietly, driving himself and parking 2 blocks away to avoid any attention. He wore no disguise this time. No need. The crew knew his face now, but most importantly, they understood why he had come in the first place. He walked through the side door just after the lunch rush, expecting the usual mess of trays and half-stocked prep tables. Instead, he entered a kitchen that was humming, not spotless, but controlled. The kind of messy that came from hard work, not neglect. Jada noticed him first. She gave a nod, then went back to checking a delivery invoice. She didn't rush over. She didn't pause what she was doing to put on a performance. That told him more than any welcome could. Rachel was behind the counter, helping a new hire adjust the register settings. She didn't flinch when she saw him. She finished showing the trainee how to split a combo meal order before stepping aside. You came back, she said. I said I would. Things are better, she said. Not easy, but better. He looked over her shoulder at the register screen. You training new cashiers now? Yeah, Jada asked me to help with onboarding, said it's easier when someone who's been through it does the walk through. Do you like it? I didn't think I would, she said. But it feels good to actually help someone instead of just trying to survive my own shift. She didn't say it like a complaint. It was just a fact. Tanner appreciated that. He didn't need praise, he needed honest reflections from people doing the work. He walked to the back where Lewis was helping unload a dry goods delivery. His shirt was faded and he had a wrist brace on his left hand, but he moved deliberately, stacking boxes in tight rows. You all right? Tanner asked. Lewis wiped his forehead with his sleeve. Just sore. Been trying to stretch better before shifts. Jada showed me a trick with a rolling pin. Helps a little. You're not pushing through injuries, are you? No, I'm taking my breaks, and I've been logging everything. Jada won't let me skip anything, even if it's busy. Tanner nodded. You still interested in that team lead role? Lewis looked over, hesitant. I mean, yeah, I've been shadowing Jada during closes. She's been teaching me shift reports, how to count safe drops, stuff like that. You think you're ready? I think I'm learning. I don't know if I'm ready to do it without her watching, but I'm getting there. That was the answer Tanner wanted to hear, not false confidence, not self-doubt, just a clear-eyed view of where he stood. He walked toward the office where a new face sat behind the desk. Monica, the interim GM. She had transferred from another store in the district, one that had recently won a quarterly operations award. She stood as soon as she saw him. "I wasn't expecting you today," she said. "No announcement, just checking in." She motioned for him to sit. "We're making progress. Still short one opener and a dishwasher, but I've got 2 candidates finishing training at the downtown location. They should rotate in next week. You've stabilized faster than I expected." It helped that Jada had the respect of the crew. She made sure the transition didn't feel like a purge. He leaned back slightly. "What's your read on her? Long-term potential, strong instincts, good balance of empathy and accountability. I'd say give her the GM role if she wants it. She doesn't chase authority, but she doesn't shy from responsibility either." Tanner tapped his fingers on the desk. "She's earned it, make it official, and bring Rachel into the training program. She's already leading." Monica nodded. "Understood." Tanner stood. "Anything I need to know?" Monica hesitated for a moment. "One thing. I pulled the last 6 months of hiring logs. Rachel and Lewis were never flagged for performance, but they were flagged twice by Darren. Both times the notes were vague. Not management material, too passive, but both had clean performance records and exceeded core metrics." Tanner's jaw tightened slightly. "Keep those notes on file. I want HR to audit the other stores Darren supervised. If he tried to block advancement here, he may have done it elsewhere. I'll flag it." He stepped out of the office and returned to the floor. Jada was now reviewing the temp logs on the walk-in fridge. She glanced up. "I heard," she said. "Official now. You've been running this place since before I walked in. It's time the title caught up." She didn't smile, didn't get emotional. She just said, "All right, let's get to work then." Tanner walked through the line one last time, observing the flow. It wasn't perfect. One of the fryers sputtered slightly. The back prep table needed new mats. But no one was cutting corners. No one was dragging their feet. No one was being used up and tossed aside. He stopped by the newest hire, a quiet high schooler named Denny, who was stacking trays near the front. "You settling in okay?" Tanner asked. Denny looked startled. Yeah, Rachel's been helping me memorize the sandwich builds. I only messed up 2 yesterday." "That's a good start." "She said I could ask questions even if it feels dumb." "Keep doing that," Tanner said. "You'll learn faster." He left without making a speech. He didn't gather the crew or ask for feedback forms. He didn't want a staged moment that would fade the second he stepped away. Instead, he walked back to his car, pulled out his notebook, and wrote down 2 names, Jada and Rachel. Not just as promotions, but as models. Leaders who didn't seize power but earned trust. People who didn't scream to be heard but made space for others to speak. Before starting the engine, he made one final note: reinforce the mentorship program. No more waiting for people to prove they're ready. If someone shows potential, invest in them early. He looked back at the store through the windshield. The same building, same sign, same menu. But the people inside those had changed. Not because of him, but because he finally listened. And now the real work could begin.